Reverend Dr. William L. Johnson III. I am grateful for the opportunity to share with us once more our morning meditation. And it is a great opportunity for me to also share how much it means to us that you are sharing these, reading them, listening to them, and sharing them with friends, really, and sharing with us in this moment. It is incumbent upon us to remind us that as we journey together, we don't do so alone, and that we do it hand in hand, moment by moment, step by step, uh, talk by talk, message by message. It is important to note for those of us who feel overwhelmed that we are not alone, that you are loved, you are appreciated, and you're irreplaceable. As we are beginning this new year in this month of January, reflecting on all that 2022 had left us and all the things that we experienced there, we carry that wisdom with us into the new year in 2023. And as I said before, I thank God, myself personally, for all I was able to go through and all that I was able to do in 2022. And I'm looking forward to giving God thanks already for all that I will see and all that I will be in 2023. You know, that rhymes, it goes together. And so I'm glad to be able to share with you these moments in meditation and hopefully inspiration and encouragement as you journey through. Now to our morning meditation. Over the last several morning meditations, we have begun talking about when you are needed. We talked about when you're needed, to not be afraid, to step out there and share words of encouragement for those who are coming out of the wilderness of their lives, to let them know that you see them, you see how they've navigated and made it through, how they have overcome. And it's important to have people cheering for you on the other side of your wilderness to let you know that you didn't die there, that there's so much a part of you that's there. And I talked about the African proverb, the story of the African village, that those who are on the outside of the village, while those young people go into the wilderness for their testing and trial time, are out there looking for them when they get ready to come out. And what they say to them, even though they are not quite sure what they've been through, is that I see you. And the moment they hear their name and to know that they've been seen, they actualize that by saying, I am here. And that's what's important. So as you share with others, as we journey through the course of this year, especially in these times of reflection and renewal and prayers for the new year, we say to one another, I see you. And we say in response to that, for those of us who come through the wilderness, maybe perhaps with the leaves still in our clothes, we are saying to them, I'm here. I've been through some rough times. I've gone through some difficulty. I may have to cry. I may have had to cry. I've lost some loved ones. I've been disappointed along the way, but I am here. And then the next message we shared with you was important, that when you're needed, there's some things that we have to process for ourselves, and that how we get prepared to go or to do what it is that we've been asked to do is a matter of our recognizing who God is, recognizing who we are as who I am or who you are, and recognizing those around us as those who are limited in our scope when compared to the one who created us, and that we need some help. And so that when God calls us and says, I need you, God knows everything that you will stand in need of, everything that you will encounter along the way, and will give it to you as you are inclined to follow that path. And in doing so, you should just go, you should just do, and you should just be. Now, for this part three, when you are needed, part three, I want to talk a little bit about what it means to be needed, and that things are not always as easy as just going and doing and being. It is not easy. I don't want you to think that just because you see people and you try to help them, that they will appreciate your labors and your help. Nor do I want you to think that just because you gave the effort, that it will be some flowery bed of ease, or that it should be easy, or people should acknowledge and want to be receptive to all that you're doing, even when you are needed, even when you are doing exactly what they need you to do, or what's needed for the moment, what the institution needs, what the job needs, what your family needs, what the community needs. It does not mean automatically that things are going to be easy. And so I want to encourage you to not quit when you're needed. When you're needed, and just because people resist your activity, don't be discouraged nor dismayed. You have to be able to navigate some things, and that's what I want to share with you today. First of all, you have to fight through your own disappointment. When you're needed, it's really not about you and your disappointment with how people receive you. It's about the need. Let me remind you, it's about the need. You discover, and maybe I've discovered along the way, that everybody doesn't even know how to say, hey, I thank you and I appreciate you. My mom, I grew up in a family, they said, hey, if anybody does anything for you, at least the minimum you could do is say thank you. But I'm recognizing we're living in a context, in a culture where people feel entitled to all the things that they want and all the things that they think they deserve, even when they need your help and you don't have to do it, they still feel entitled to that. But that should not keep you from doing what you ought to do. Because remember, what you're doing for them, you do because you're moved by the hand of God. I'll say more about that in a moment. It's important to know that when you're needed, then you have to fight through your own disappointment. Yes, it didn't turn out the way you wanted it. Yes, it wasn't easy. Yes, it took a lot for you to be there and show up. Yes, you have a lot of things that you have to handle on your own. And so to be able to show up and be there when you're needed is a reminder that you are needed, not because others ask you, but because your divine creator asked you, called you to that moment. That's important to note, because as you do so, then you recognize you have to fight through your own disappointment. Not only fight through your own disappointment, but you have to faith through your own discontent. Yep, I know, I said that. Faith through your own discontent. Discontent is that thing in which it may not be a ready resistance, but it may make you feel uneasy. Is this going to work? I don't feel comfortable doing this. I am not smart enough or wise enough or good enough at this. Maybe someone else can do this. And sometimes you have to trust yourself to step out on faith, to do what you've never done before, to go places you've never been before, to lend yourselves in ways you've never lent yourself before in order to get through it. And that takes faith, my friends. It takes belief that there's something calling you to this, even when you don't know how it's going to turn out. You have to faith through it. Faith through it. You have to be able to trust that whatever it is that you've been asked to do, that's all that you can do. And there's nothing more for you to do other than that specific thing you've been asked to do. Faith through it, even though it doesn't make sense to you to do it right now. You never know what the outcomes will be. And that is why I think many people just stop short. They want the outcomes so that we can see that we've made progress. Well, I want to say to you, sometimes that works, but sometimes it doesn't. Many of us who are parents have invested in our children, and boy, it doesn't look like they are taking any of the lessons. It means that it doesn't look like they ever get the clue. They didn't read the book. They didn't do the cliff notes. They don't have an idea. But later on in life, when we are not looking and when we're not aware and when we're not observing their actions, those things in which we planted spring up in them and guide them along the way. So you don't always know how the outcomes are going to be. That's why you have to faith through your discontent. Not only faithing through your discontent and, kind of fighting through your disappointment, but I will say you have to kind of forge through your disorientation. Now, let me say a little bit about disorientation. Many of us were shaped in a way, in a culture, in a background by our parents, our families, about right and wrong, good or bad, how to talk, how to do, how to navigate. And in this climate, it feels awfully disorienting that none of the fail-safes, none of the landmarks that we would be able to call on, or many of them are now moving and shaking. So the people we thought, or the ways in which we engage with each other that we thought would always be there, are no longer the norm. It is a different world. I know, I'm aware. But you have to find ways to forge through your disorientation. In other words, when I don't feel like I understand where the landmarks are and I don't know how to navigate through the spaces now, I still have to press my way, even if it's frustrating for a little while. Because you're needed. The need is too great for you to throw up your hands and walk away. The need is too great for you to not engage. And this year, as you go through, you have to remember that the needs that you're caring for, you may be the person in need. And what would happen if you were there so much in need and the person who had what you needed decided to throw their hands up because they were disoriented and didn't feel like pressing their way? So I want to encourage you in that. I'll leave you with this. I am mindful as I lead into the next message, part 4, that this is not easy to do. But I want to remind you that we have a guide, and that guide has not left us alone. And so trust yourself as you're navigating through this year, as you're navigating through this week, and as you're navigating through today, not to be overwhelmed with being discontented, not being overwhelmed with being disappointed, not being overwhelmed with being disoriented, but trust that there is something that you have that only God has placed in you to give. And that is what matters most, the need. You are needed. And when you are needed, show up that way. Why? Because you are loved, you are appreciated, and you're irreplaceable. Share that with others, those words of encouragement, as we navigate through this new year. Have a great one. God bless.